Welcome back to In Your Own Words. I'm your host, Kimon Kotos, and with me today is noted author David Walks His Bear. And David, thanks again for joining us.
Yes, sir.
And we were talking about your background here from Muskegon and your work in the military and the Coast Guard and serving as a game warden and working in the community. But I'd like to explore your work as an author and not only what led to your writing, but you have a character that seems to extend throughout your books named Eli Stone. Can you tell us a little bit about your venturing into writing and how you developed your character?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the same thing that I tell most folks whenever I'm doing an author talk or a presentation, and that's basically that when I was a kid, that was one of the things that I could do was tell a story, write a story out that I was interested in. And like even right now, the next book is going on in my head. It's an ongoing thing with me. I don't know about other authors and their processes. That's just how it works with me. But I'm just interested in the story. I'm just interested in telling the story. And once I get the story told, I'm satisfied. So that's the way it always was. And so when my wife and I were first married, and that was in 1976, I would sit up until 3 o'clock in the morning. She'd be gone by 10 o'clock at night. That's the way it went. But I had this story, and so I would sit at the table, and I'd rewrite it, and doing it in longhand pencil, and I'd rewrite it and erase, and rewrite it and erase. And when I finally got it done, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and, I'd go back through it and read it, and I was satisfied, and then I'd wad it up and toss it in the garbage because I was done with it. And that's basically how it is with me. Once I'm done with a story, I'm pretty much done with it. Gives me a lot of trouble with editors too. But the long story short is that she was a librarian. She's retired now, but my wife was a librarian, and she would get up in the morning, obviously before me, and she would find those stories in there, and she'd pull them out, and she'd say, this is really good. You're going to do something with this someday. This is really good. Well, we never did. Instead, we had these 5 kids that wanted to eat all the time, like I said. And so I was busy working other jobs or whatever. But I would still write these stories. And then eventually I got into it as a photojournalist in the Coast Guard and as a freelance, photojournalist. And so the crux of the story is that she was on me all the time to write a novel. Constantly on me. I mean, all the time. And you're married, I'm assuming, right? So you know what that can be like. They drive you crazy sometimes. At least mine did with this particular thing. And so she was always on me to write the book. She just pick something that you want to write about and write the story. I think you'd be good at this. I think you'd be good at this. I didn't think that I could be good at it. I wasn't interested if I was good at it. Anyway, it finally got to the point where we started the private game warden agency, and I was patrolling late at night. I had a patrol station set there with a computer. He says, okay, that's it. There's no excuse now. You've got time. You're going to be in here before you go make your other patrols. Write the book. Pick something you want to write and write the book. She had been on me for a long time to do this, so that's what I did. So I wrote this book. I found in the book, The Murmurings, the first Eli Stone book, was based on a true Michigan mystery and something I happened to be interested in. So I did that, and I threw a lot of the Indian stuff in there because you write what you know, a lot of the military stuff because you write what you know. And so I wrote the book, and then it was all done. She read it. She says, this is really good. This is really good. I said, I'm glad you like it. Okay, I'm done now. We're all set. Don't bother me about that anymore. She said, oh, no, now we need to send this out to publishers. I said, no, the deal was, I'd write the book. You do what you want to do with it from there. I've done my part. Feel free to toss it. Feel free to give it to somebody, whatever you want to do. And so what we ended up doing, or what she mostly did, was self-publish the book. I still thought it was kind of corny, but it actually got really good reviews. And because this particular novel is based on that mystery in 1953, November 23rd, 1953, a missing U.S. Air Force jet that disappeared over Lake Superior, about 40 miles north of Marquette. It just disappeared, and it's actually a classic UFO story. And so I was only interested in the case, and I was interested in what it was because my investigator background was just fascinating to me. So what happened, though, is that I got a call from the director, the state director of MUFON. I didn't even know what MUFON was. You probably don't. No. It's the Mutual UFO Network. I didn't know what it was either. But anyway, they called and wanted me to be the keynote speaker at their international symposium. And apparently, well, they do. I was there. I was the keynote. And they have people come from all over the world to attend these. And so it was based on because of this book and because of that. And I did have a really good time telling the story, though I always do. So and that's basically what got into it. And then the next book was Old Money. That one's set in Hawaii because that's where I was at that time. And so that's how it came to be. And then there's a couple little standalones in there too. The LP, and that one won an award about the 2003 invasion of Iraq. And then the one after that is a little historical fiction Western called Seamus Gilley, U.S. Secret Service and Medicine Hat. So in essence, that's where it's at. The newest one will be out May 1st.
Now, the new book, tell us the title on that.
Whitaku, the Shapeshifter. Yeah.
Now, what is that? What's that story about?
Witiku is the root. Okay, well, I'm sure you probably know this, and a lot of your viewers are going to know this too. But the woodland Indians, the native tongue for them, the root tongue is Algonquin. And so basically, everybody's language is very similar, just like Latin, Greek, you're a Greek guy. So Latin is Greek, French is based off from the Latin, Spanish. So, okay, Witiku, the word Witiku is the Algonquin root word for something called Wendigo and probably 50,000 other names that each particular nation calls this thing. And it's an ancient American Indian witch. So, that's what a Witiku is, and this particular novel has the Michigan Dogman in it too. I appeared on the History Channel with the Michigan Dogman. That was really funny.
Well, that's good.
Well, yeah. Well, you see me, the little fat guy in his green uniform, because I came right from work, and I'm, you look like a shapeshifter to me, so I'm doing that kind of a thing. But on that episode of Monster Quest, and that's what it was. So
was it also development of that character? Is that true for each of your books, that you take this Eli Stone character? Is he the protagonist? In
that series, he is the protagonist, and the series is actually, I don't know how much trouble I can get into for that. My wife had leukemia. You and I had mentioned that before. I mentioned that to you earlier. My wife had leukemia, and we were in Detroit, and she was going through a bone marrow transplant. She's doing really well now. The Creator's been super good to us. So she was going through a bone marrow transplant, and the ABC came out with a TV series called Eli Stone, which is based on my books. My books were used for that or whatever. They canceled the series after my attorneys contacted them. So the long story short is that the Eli Stone character seems to be one that folks like, or at least enjoy. I don't know. And I have a good time writing them. I really have a good time. So
now, have you had a chance to travel around the country or elsewhere?
Oh yeah,
on behalf of your books.
Yeah, we used to before she got sick, and she's doing really well now. We still had kids at home at that point in time. We'd attend the various writers' conferences. We went to England and Ireland and doing those kinds of things. You're on a panel, 600 people out in the audience, and you're talking to them about the different aspects, kind of a lot like what we're doing right now. But yeah, we did those kinds of things right up until she got sick, and then the last two kids are gone. She's doing really well now, and we'll probably start doing those kinds of things again. So did get a chance to travel a lot doing the authoring biz.
Now, when is the? I understand the release date is coming up soon.
Yeah, May 1st for Witiku the Shapeshifter.
You want to show the?
Yeah, I do. Okay, so that's
a little example of the book.
That's Witiku the Shapeshifter.
So this is the book. And interesting cover art as well.
Yeah, well, Witiku is, like I said, an ancient American witch. I mean, very nasty. You don't get much nastier than this in traditional American Indian culture. So a Witiku, Wendigo, the same thing. And a shapeshifter would be just like you see right there.
Half animal.
Half animal. And see, the Michigan Dogman plays in this too. You probably don't know what that is, do you?
No, explain that to me.
The Michigan Dogman. Okay, so I write a syndicated newspaper column called The Bear's Den. It originates in the White Lake Beacon. Okay, so it's carried in several other papers and one magazine, the Great Lakes Pilot, which has a coverage all over the American North Midwest, I guess you'd say. Anyway, so I wrote a column about Halloween, or the coming of Halloween one year, probably 2005, something like that. One of my readers, I don't know most of these folks. I have a lot of folks that email, and I don't know who they are. I've never met them. I mean, we go back and forth like that. Anyway, she sent me an actual attachment with a CD of this song, and it's called "The Legend of the Dogman." That's on the website now. If any of your viewers want to check that out, but it's anyway. So I listened to the song and I said, "Whoa, that's spooky, man! I've never heard that all this time, all my life, my whole career, all the years I spent out in the woods. I've never heard of this before. How is that possible?" And so I started doing research on it, and as I was doing research, that's how the History Channel contacted me, because they wanted to interview me, because from an American Indian, Native American perspective, what is a dog, man? And I said, sure, I'll be happy to do that, and that's how that came to be. But the more I found out about it, the more I got into this legend, and there is a difference between legends and myths, in the sense that legends actually have a basis in truth somewhere. Mm-hmm. Myths, urban legends, those are things that folks make up. But a legend started out with some part of it being true. And this is the legend of the Michigan Dogman, and there are accounts of this thing being seen going all the way back to the 1700s, the French fur trappers, and then the British, the redcoats. And then when the first newspapers came out, newspaper accounts existed of it. So it was fascinating to me, and I got into it like that, and I thought, well, the next Eli Stone novel, because I do one set in Michigan, One's set somewhere else. One's set back in Michigan. Like the one that I'm writing that's beating around my fat little head right now is Lucifer's Wedge, and that's down in Grand Bahama Island. It's where he goes right after here. So that's how it came to be.
So there's a continuing journey with this Eli Stone
saga,
character.
I guess you call it
saga. There you go. Well, I also understand you've written a children's book as well.
Yeah, a couple. There's one of them's out of print right now. The other one is it's actually a juvenile book. It's How to Become a Swamp Creature. I guess it's kind of like spooky, like this one. This is actually kind of a horror book too, for what it's worth for folks. But anyway, yeah, How to Become a Swamp Creature. It's just my wife. That was her again, with saying that there's nothing out there for kids, young people, to teach them how to hunt and fish or whatever. There's not much at that point in time anyway. And so I wrote this one. It's just it's got a lot of American Indian ethics about archery, deer hunting. So bow hunting is what it's about. How to become a swamp creature. For book for kids on bow hunting for deer. The other one's called Mystery of the Medicine Pipe, and that's a small children's book.
And we're going to come back in just a moment. Thank you for staying with us.